open book festival in South Africa. And then suggested very strongly that we screen it at the NVO Lit Fest in Nairobi, which we did, that Lola happened to be a guest at. And there are connections that we were speaking about the other day that exist at a festival level with uNOBUNTU and Lola, and obviously this film now screening now at the Ake Festival, I feel is a nice little South Africa, Southern Africa, Eastern Africa, Western Africa kind of gang, and we love it.
It's so incredible.
Thank you. Thank you for being here this evening and for this powerful, powerful story and for sharing it. When both of them were in Nairobi, after they left, I was telling them that one of the really powerful things that happened after is that the film inspired us to invite members of the public to share their own stories about loss and grief that we can add to the collection of public libraries in Nairobi. So I want it's just so beautiful to see, I think, memory captured in these powerful ways and in present ways and ways that we can all still enjoy. Thank you so much for being here. We're going to dive in. We're going to have a lovely conversation this evening, and I'm really looking forward to hearing from both of you. Nombeko, what inspired you to document this 40-year-old journey in these ways?
This opportunity to thank ICA Festival ICA Art and Book, Ake Art and Book Festival for inviting us to Nigeria. It's our first time. It's our first time, so it's a dream come true. I'm so happy to be here. Finally, I'm here. Thank you, Lola. What inspired me to write this book was the pain, as you have heard from the film. It was never a plan to write a book. My dream was not to publish anything other than the excruciating pain that I had as a young bride that was newlywed, who has got the first very precious baby. When your dreams are all around, your decisions are all around the baby. Now you lose this baby. And you are this like this person who, even when you sleep, you don't sleep. You lose appetite, you lose everything. So at that time when I lost my sleep, when I couldn't sleep, when I didn't know what to do, when I did not know where to take my pain to, then I thought that maybe let me take this pen. Let me take pen and take this pain out of my system. When other people are sleeping, when I'm crying alone, I said, okay, let me write. So for me, it was for the pain that I was having. It was inspired by the pain. And it was also for me, for my healing. Because it was very, very tough for me at that time. I really didn't know what I could do in order to take the pain away. Because all my hopes were around the baby. And now the baby has just been lost. It was bad. It was such a difficult time. You know, even when you're sleeping, you see yourself, holding the baby that is not there. And sometimes you see yourself breastfeeding. Because I was breastfeeding, she was only 8 months old. So you feel like, oh my God, where is this baby? You are sleeping, but so it was so painful. That's the reason I had to write the very first poem. I just didn't know what to do.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And for you, it's been an incredible journey of paying witness to your mother's journey, but also working with her to bring this story to life. You mentioned in the film about the sort of legacy of growing up in South Africa, apartheid, what that has done to memory and to documenting everything, stories to do with our families, to do with memory. How did growing up in 1990 South Africa kind of shape how you approached documenting this with your mom?
Yeah. Thanks for that question. It's almost like every time you watch the documentary with a different audience, something different kind of comes alive, and I think part of it is influenced by this specific question. I think so much for me of growing up in South Africa, especially at the time when I was born, it was really the opening up of South Africa and opening up of schools as well. And so really what was happening, it was the very first entry into Model C schools. So if you hear Mama speaking, she says, they didn't go to Model C schools, like, you know, like, and part of what that was meant to be something that is better, so to say, right? Because now suddenly children who previously could not enter into such schools, right, had access. But I think part of what was happening was because these schools didn't have the climate, really, to be able to fully embrace a brown-skinned child and their identity and their histories and who they come from and where they come from. All that you saw was a gradation, really, of what you are not. Do you know what I mean? And so I think I feel it more so now, because I think even as you grow up, part of what's going on with you is almost removing those layers of skin and shame that are really instilled in that time, because I didn't. Like, it's fine. I mean, you hear Barbara Boswell saying, I didn't see black women writing. You hear Cindy Makwana saying, I was only 38 when I first held this. And so I think for me, part of what even not recognizing my mom as a storyteller was because I don't think I appreciated creativity in my context as being creativity. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's part of the work of doing this documentary is really the redemption of her own story, but I think for me, a redemption of a much larger cultural story, and really being able to reclaim all of that and to give yourself the strength that you need to push and catapult yourself into the fullness of life and creativity that not only exists in yourself, but of all the women that have come before you that really didn't have the room to be able to fully express that and have it regarded as creative, as musicality, as artistic, as brilliant, and really as smart. And I think that this storytelling is for my mom, but I recognize, especially today, that really it's also my own healing. And I think that the Ultimate Book Show and the stories of those women there really helped me to see the context as much larger than just ourselves, and our story being part of many other stories.
That is such a powerful thing. And at this juncture, can I ask Mama please to read a little snippet for us of your choice? Which may become a song.
I'll find it for you.
I'll take few verses of one of my poems. I love nature. It heals me. Silver green grass. There it spreads and covers the land. There a verdant green duvet, comforting life. It charms the traveler's eye, summons them to its lush abundance. What season of the year is this? Springtime has come. I noticed a piglet covered in dew. It attracted the eye as a woman charms her spouse. There a spider's web, glittering like a beautiful girl. Perhaps spring has come from the state of the ground. With gratitude, declaring and announcing her beauty, a grand lady, daughter of the world, you are life. Our lives whirl around your seasons. Without you, what would life be? Where's life outside of your benefits? The land becomes dull and dry. A howling bowl of dust, why would the world of the divine Jehovah appear that way? Beautiful princess, in your absence, the land becomes so dry. In your absence, it is blown away, and the dust sinks into the sea. Let me end there. Thank you. Thank you.
That was the English translation, because the poetry is actually written in our mother tongue, Xhosa.
Yeah.
She doesn't have the Xhosa. I didn't bring it.
Thank you. Thank you for that reading. Going back to the question that the sharing that you just did about growing up in 1990s South Africa, for you, what role did storytelling play then in kind of preserving memory at that time in your community?
Okay. For me, writing, for instance, what do I want to say? Because I had to break tradition in the first place. I'm a teacher, and I married someone into another, let's say in another province. And there's a lot of tradition and culture there where it is not really, as a woman, you have to be a woman. You know, there are chores, there are rules, there's a protocol for you that you have to follow. Things like writing, for instance, even working as a woman for me, it was something that was not supposed to be there. But I had to break that and break through, because I didn't see what I was going to eat if I was going to sit home and not go, because I was a teacher already. But they were saying here, apha ekhaya asiphangelelwa ngabafazi.
Now home, we don't have wives working.
Yes, we don't have wives working, so you are a wife, you have to be there. So for me, I had to make sure that I do silently and with humility and with such wisdom. I was very close to my father-in-law, because he was the one who was just directing everything. You couldn't go through over and above what he says. So I had to write what I wrote here, for instance. I wrote this, and it's now a book, and now they say, okay, it's okay, and now they agree with me with some of the things that I've written here. So for me, it was a way of freeing myself from that control and from that protocol, because it was even difficult for me to further my studies. Because they will say, what is it that a woman is looking for? When you are already a woman, you should be sitting home. You should be cooking for us and doing all sorts of things. But I had to break that so that even those that are coming after me, they can be an open window for them. So for me, storytelling has just helped me to free myself and also to free others, to impact also the nation, and also to leave a legacy for my children, and to leave a legacy that will be there even in my absence. I think so. So yeah, that's what it is. And also it has also helped me to guide, because if you read through my poems, they are divided into 4 segments. There's a segment on work, whereby I push the young ones out of the beer holes into schools. Get education, be equipped as a young man, as a young woman. Even if you are already, you think that you are old enough. I was never old enough not to study. I've studied. I've kept on learning. I was studying part-time. I did all my degrees part-timely. When I was raising them, as a mother, as a sister, as a teacher, as a wife, but I had to ensure that I continue to study. At night, I was studying. Yeah, that's who I am. That's how it has helped me. Thank you.
Thank you. And Sihle, speaking of chapters, obviously one of the things in the film is that the story is broken into chapters, and the reference to women writers, you can't miss it. It's quite central to the story, which I found quite enjoyable. And in one of the chapters, one of the people that's referenced, or a line that's referenced, is from Alice Walker's In Search of Our Mother's Gardens. And she says, in search of my mother's gardens, in search of my mother's garden. Of course, the line after that is, I found my own. And that made me wonder about your process and family legacy, because it's really a poem about creativity thriving in harsh conditions. And this process of working with your mother to bring this manuscript to life, what that journey was like for you in that context of Alice Walker's writing.
You know, I keep thinking about where we are now, the opportunity to be in Nigeria and be sitting on a stage together. I keep thinking, there's no version of reality where I could have even like hoped for this. You know what I mean? Like, you don't think that this is something that can. It's not, you know, like how people sometimes say the life that you're living is somebody else's prayer. And I'm like, oh, I don't even think somebody's praying for this, because it's not something that you're thinking, right? Like, it's a prospective opportunity. And I think what this has done for me is opened me up to, one, I think her own soul, her own truths, the things that she can't say with her mouth. For years, so my dad passed away when we were very young, I was 6, and in 2015 I wrote a blog called The Mother Who Chewed Her Tongue. And what I was writing about was the ways in which we silence and mute grief. And I sent it to her, and her only response was, oh, do I chew my tongue? And I thought, yes. Like, and it's interesting that the things that she had never said growing up, there were no pictures of my dad or no like recollections of the pains that she'd gone through, are all the stuff that I discovered in her poetry, right? And suddenly, because in such a way mothers have to raise you, they have to be neutralized. Do you know what I mean? And suddenly I could find moments where she's angry, right? Like, I could find her feminism in her poetry. There's one poem where she writes on men, and that sometimes the beastly nation says, the hair on your chest was no error, right? And that's something my mom would have never said. Like, I would have never had a day where she would say, oh, bobo yaglo mzimba bupaza nyanga tu. But suddenly, in reading that, I could almost like trace the moments of anger, of knowing the injustices that she had gone through, the questions that they had gone through in her family. And so I feel like it's almost like tracing your lineage, tracing her voice, right? And then being able to not only then have her as a mother, but truly as a person who has her own dreams, her own ambitions, her own life, and be able to almost co-labor as, I think, I don't know, a destiny partner, as a soul friend. Yeah. And I think that's so incredibly special, because even as I go into my own journey of thinking about motherhood, part of what you realize that you don't have to lose that part, right? That spark of creativity, that power of self. Right? It means that, in fact, when you, as the person who's in that role, are liberated, it means that you give your children the wings to be able to really grow and truly flourish. And so I think, yeah, I've learned my mom in ways that I could have never been able to learn outside of that. And I think that gives me confidence as a woman, but also as a creative, to be able to track that you're not the first, actually. Your mom was writing, your grandmother was writing, and so many others before you are too.
If I can add to that, I think it has also caused me and her, you know, we have got that understanding that now, as much as she's my daughter, as much as I'm more experienced and more wiser than her, but she's more wiser than me when it comes to this field. She's my mentor and my director when it comes to this area, because she's the one who has gone before me. And now it has created that channel of communication, and that she can teach me and I can learn from her as much as she can learn from me. So it's that kind of relationship. Thank you.
That is wonderful. That is so great to hear about the symbiotic relationship, learning from each other, the circularity of things. It's really a beautiful thing to witness, and quite uncommon. It's not that common. And I think for me, what's super, super special is also this idea of a conversation between a mother and a daughter. It's really special to witness, so thank you for sharing that. And speaking of that, your mother, who you refer to as Grandma Rose, when we were having this conversation when I was in Nairobi, you talked about something quite powerful that she said, and I will quote what she says: there are some prayers that are only answered in the next generation. For both of you, how do you feel sharing this story has transformed your understanding of family legacy?
Can I first? You know, I think the biggest thing for me when I'm watching my siblings, my sisters, and them speaking and regarding that as work of art, right? And realizing that people appreciate and see it has been so enlightening, because I think that family is such a place of purpose. And I think when we're able to almost, I don't want to say valorize, but almost like look at your family as also a place of archiving, that it makes you understand, one, the people that you come from, two, the shared talents that you all carry, but three, how significant the impact can be when you are truly united and really see each other with a much deepened kind of love. And so I think really being able to regard them and see them and appreciate and not feel like, oh, this part about us talking about ourselves should go faster so that we can really talk about the more, intellectual stuff, but really to be able to regard the soul of a family, because I think that's what we all come from, and that's really where all the truest, highest talents and beauty of all of ourselves really are most reflected, when we see ourselves in them too.
All right, for me, I think ever since we started this journey, it has opened up. It has brought so much life, so much health and openness amongst ourselves as the family. Because also it has freed me to talk about things and even about other things, to share the pain that I have gone through. And now it has opened up a space whereby they are able to ask questions, maybe to get to understand, oh, Mom, oh. I mean, we agree. It's like now, uNOBUNTU is just amongst us. We're talking and interacting with her. It was even worse when we were together in Cape Town, where we were shooting the film. When I received this book, I'm sure you saw what happened. And when I touched this book, the physical, the book itself, we were there as a family. And it was like, because for me, I left it as a manuscript. You have seen those old papers that are even brown in color. Now it's because of her, because of my other daughters and son. Now what has happened is that now I see this book. And what does this mean? For me, it brought all the memories of my daughter, uNOBUNTU. When I think of her, I always think of the orange color that she used to wear. So I said to them, these are the colors of my book. There must be this orange. But also it brought back the memories of my own mother. The name of my mother is Rose. So there's a rose that you see there. So when I touch this book, it's like they have come back. They are in our lives. We are now back again. We are the family. We are talking about things. It has brought so much unity amongst ourselves. We talk, and also understanding that we, as a family, we are not just a family. God has got a vision for each and every family. So what kind of a family do we want to be? What vision do we have? If we want to be academics, because I've just made an example of an academic, how far is Sisanda? How far is Tumile? How far is Sihle? How far am I? How far are we if we want to achieve the vision that we have as a family, of that one of being a highly educated family, Christian family that is has got financial freedom? How far? Where are we? Who is doing what? What is Ati doing as an entrepreneur, So it has just brought so much closeness and openness and vulnerability from my side. Yeah, thank you.
And I know that both of you arrived in Lagos before this festival, right? Just you, okay. Sihle arrived in Lagos before this festival because they were showing this film.
Another film.
A different film.
A different
Can you tell us
film.
about that film and what you were showing?
I recently played lead actress in a film called Sierra's Gold. And it actually just won, not Best Film, but I won Best Actress at the New York Film Academy Awards. Well, Cinematography and Film Awards. And it's really, I think it's incredible because the only thing I've always ever wanted to be really was to act. But for many years, I tried to be many other things, you know, and I think in some ways, this ability to truly see your work and see yourself, it's called Sierra's Gold, and it's really about understanding the gold in yourself. And I feel like just watching it and seeing this work is this constant reminder of, you know, the creative excellence and brilliance that's already stored in you. And I think this feels like a reminder of that, and that's what this was too. And so my friends who are here actually are people that I met at AFRIF 2 weeks ago.
Wonderful. And I understand there's some awards as well that have been won in the past couple of weeks.
We have the Best Director, who also had Best Film for her film Phoenix Fury. Ifioma!
And when I watched that film, when it was screened in Joburg, when was it?
Sierra's Gold,
I decided, let me go there because I could feel her heart. She was like, Mom, are you not going to be there? And I said, okay, let me go. Let me be there. And I was like, wow, is this my daughter? Is it the Sihle that I know? We can just change such soft, kind, compassionate character into being Sierra that I saw that day. And I was like, oh, no. You're still going to go to places. Bless you. It's so beautiful. Please do watch it.
I am watching both of you in awe. And I think in closing, before I invite you all to ask any questions you may have, I'm wondering what the effect has been on the mother-daughter relationship, collaborating in this way, on what is really a beautiful portrait that you both have created here.
What has been the effect?
I think I've already indicated, the effect of our collaboration is like, now, I treat her like my equal, I treat her like my senior, but there's more connection, there's more communication and openness. Because I'm learning, I'm prepared, I'm a scholar, so I'm a learner. I'm learning, I'm prepared to learn from her because she's the genius in this side where I'm not. So for me, I think there are effects that you can see even with my other family members. They can see that we should be going somewhere. Let us all, be prepared, all of us, to go somewhere. Even if one was lazy, like the one I was saying, you are lazy when you always want to read books, don't want to do anything. But at least everybody is aware that we should be waking up and going to somewhere because there's a vision for us to get there together.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The thing that I think, you asked the question of how Mom sustained the work for 40 years and only published in 2023. And if I were to say what I think sustained you, is a deep spirit of joy. And it's something that I have to consistently keep learning and keep seeing in her. My mom, as they said in the films, always singing. Literally, in the worst times, she's playing music, she's singing along, she's dancing to it. And I think what I'm constantly mirrored back to me is how do you see your life as more full? And how do you create from that place of already being complete? I think one of the things that I absolutely enjoyed when we were in Nairobi was watching her interact in an author space, but now as my mom, and she was hanging out with people. She was asking me about Japanese when she got here, and she would just say to people, "I love you so much." And I could think that's not what you say to people at festivals, right? Like, or she'd be taking photos when they, take a picture, like, look at me. And I think just experiencing the genuineness of just being a person, not trying to be anything else but being, was so incredibly moving that I think in a big way, it just causes you to constantly own the fullness and the abundance of being in all its ways and not try to place being smart, talking about film or work and this, but just being like, I love it. Like, just look at me when you take a picture. And that's part of connection that people don't forget how you make them feel. And I think that reminds me all the time being around you to, yeah.
Wonderful. Let's take some questions, please, from the audience. I see a hand up here and another one back there.
Hi, my name is Eyin Awigwe. It's not a question. I just want to lend to the conversation. It's a lot. I'll try to keep it concise. I met Sihle at Afrif, and upon sighting her, I walked up to her and I told her she was just like a... Right? I could feel her energy, her aura, and I knew she was carrying something. So I approached her and she told me, oh, from South Africa. I'm like, oh, I asked her what part. She said, Joburg. What are you here for? She told me. And apparently I had worked with the same director she was there for, the film, Adze, in Joburg. So I'm like, okay, great. There was a reason we had to meet. So we got talking and a lot with her. And she told me about this, and I'm here today. And I just want to say this has so much than even you, the creators. And I'll refer to this as a project between the documentary and the book as one project. You would still, years coming, find revelations from what you have created that you don't know yet. That's how deep it is. And it's so simplified to the family unit that we already know and are familiar with, but it takes us into the deeper sense of it that we have lost in the today. You know, it connects generations in a beautiful way that is very timely. I told you I was going to have a side talk with you, but more people need to hear so they can also take that with them and not just through your vessel. Is that the fact that between the power of collaboration across generations, between the instilling family values that inspire not just the women that you might focus on, but the men, right? And the depth of family and what it means for a person and a child's identity to take root from somewhere, knowing who they are, where they're from, and take that, the genetics, most important, the spirituality of family, and then the essence of it into the physical and running with it. There's no loss. Even most parents don't even understand it in that depth, but they know that they are parents and they're genuinely parents. But there's a deeper sense that this touches on. And that I see, you know, we're in a time where we are all individuals pursuing our raised visibility, engagement, social media. The Gen Zs that we like to refer to are good, but kind of lacking the principles that our mothers had that they need to imbibe, be the greatest and exceptional ones of their generation, and without which it's just success without depth or essence or substance. So in a way, as you chat your cause with your tours through schools inspiring the young generation, please anchor it on what imbibing the values that you find in her words, the gems, the wisdom, into their current realities, not being her or going back to the traditional sense, but finding those gems and applying it to their current realities, and that will create magic out of them, no matter how exceptional they already are. So I want to encourage you, and I say this is such beautiful work. While I was watching, I was also going on down memory lane with my mom. So I was reflecting on time from childhood, playing back and imagining my mom seeing me create this for her. And I was emotional while still focusing on this, to the point that I know your family so well. I was telling you about them as they popped up because I could see soul in their eyes, and all their souls had different levels of strength. And you too, I could tell the combination of your strength and tenderness before it was said. So it's so spiritual. You know, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We had another question at the second row there. Thank you.
I'm so glad I finally can ask my question after I didn't even get to ask it at Open Book 2 years ago. I am wondering, I mean, you already obviously showed power that, you know, you've got a very strong union amongst the family, your kind of your mother, the children. I want to know, what has the impact been amongst your wider family? And I'm specifically thinking about the men in your family, not your brother, he's obviously in the film, but how have other men in your family reacted to this book?
I have a comment, but first tell everybody where we shot the film, please.
Sorry, my house.
We actually filmed in
my house.
there's a locked studio in their home, And it was so funny seeing you. I'm like, can you believe we're showing the film here and we shot it in here? But you know what's so funny? So recently we had a huge newspaper article after, I think it was, I'm not sure when, I think it was after we came back from Kenya, that was on a local newspaper back at home. And one family member came and he was so excited and he brought this newspaper and he was super excited about it. And then my mom's brother sees it, right? My mom goes and shows it to him. He's like, oh my gosh, we're on the news here. And he just laughs and he says, Mdoza, which is what my mom is called back home. You're riding on this child's fame, right? And then he just laughs it off, right? And I think really, and it's a funny, my mom just laughed it off as well. I think she found it funny too in some way because I guess the way that they're able to relate to that. But I think there's a lot of ways in which elder generation isn't able to recognize and see the giftings of each other. Sometimes I think it's just an easier way to live. And I don't know necessarily what the source of that is, but that's been my assessment of the response, right? Yeah, I don't know. What do you think? But not a lot of men in our family have seen the film, though.
I think for me, we have a long way to go. We still have a long way to go. Most of us, we have a long way to go because, for instance, you people that are in this field, media and film, you understand the power of literature. You understand the power of education. Some of us, some of our brothers, most of the time we find that ladies are leading. And then the brothers are always slow, to take things, So even now, when we talk about uNOBUNTU, you'll be amazed to find out that as much as this has been my pain, it's been something that I've been carrying over years, this weight, keeping quiet, because I've been this kind of a person who's like, everything is, I hold everything together, trying to be this, this daughter-in-law who's good, trying to be this breadwinner. So they always think that your things are going smoothly all the time. When they see you as this person whose things are always right, you're responsible, you're moving forward, you're becoming better and better. Maybe they don't even really see how deep this is. Yeah, as she says, Mdoza like this, she's just joking. She's just playing with it. But my other brother-in-law, who knows, who is a little bit enlightened in these areas, was like, wow, let me come and see it. She bought Daily Dispatch, she brought it home to say, I'm so proud of you, So there are those gaps. There are those gaps. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Welcome to Nigeria.
Thank you.
Wow, well, I was really moved. And as he says, this film is really deep. And one particular part that really had me in his grip was when that book was presented to each of you individually. I was just fixated on the faces, and you could see almost like an electric current going through the person. So this film has very much given me some peace in a way that few other things have, because we live in a digital age, and anybody who's involved with books does have to ask themselves the question, what is the digital age going to do to the book? But I think what I saw there just tells me that nothing can ever remove books from our lives. It was very powerful.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you, Dada. Thank you so much.
I also feel like I learned a lot about my mum through reading her poetry specifically. One instance being an experience that she had just before I was born. I'm actually losing her son, Olakitom, and having a miscarriage. And I guess my question to you is, as someone who learned a lot about their parent through their literature, through their work and their creativity, how has that informed your position when you, and how you communicate things when you so when your kids grow into enjoying literature for themselves? Because I found something so beautiful and so special in being able to see those sides of my parents that may have been in some ways withdrawn and only really open to me and accessible to me through literature. But I just wonder how you reconcile that balance with being open with your kids, just as my mum has always been with me, and the beauty of being able to understand them in a deeper way through literature. And then a supplementary question is also, is there anything that you wish that you didn't know, or is there anything that you wish you learned sooner about your parents? About your mum through literature, about your mum through literature.
So the first ones, I don't have kids yet. So that'll be a really interesting journey. But I think just to speak to that is that I write for kids. And so I think a lot about stories and how we use stories to teach everything. I had an article I'd written about what are children's books meant to do for us. And so I think about stories as a very fundamental place from which we give birth to how we teach, how we evoke curiosity, how we expand the souls, both of ourselves and for children. And I especially think adults should be reading children's books, because I think if you can't read the children's book, then the child shouldn't be reading it either. And that children's books themselves are really meant to be that axe to the frozen sea of the soul. And so I think of them as a big base point for how I would think about the next generation, but also my own children in the future. And I think for my mom, what I wish, so it's very interesting. There was a point in time when my mom moved from working for a company and then started her own company. And I think it was during maybe early on in the pandemic when we were home, and she would literally wake up. She's up at like around 7. She's already in her office. She doesn't understand if you are working from home in your gown. She'll come to you and say, "The CEO of Wonderworld in a gown," you know, like. And then I stopped working for UP, where I used to work for the University of Pretoria. And so then she comes and says something else. She'll evoke some sense in you. And I remember my sister saying to us, you know, because my mom, when we were younger, was always working out, right? Like not in the home necessarily. You didn't get to see and really understand the rhythms of her hard work, right? The kind of muscle it takes and that she has to pull to make the life that you have. And I think what I wish I had understood sooner, right, this is her life, right? Like, this is her career. This is how you build a life. This is how you raise. That this writing is the most powerful form of creativity that I can regard. And I think had I understood that even sooner, I just feel like it's such a powerful thing to carry and to hold and to understand. But I think I am understanding it more and more now. And as I watch it all with you too, like that fire and that belief just settles in my soul in a way that I think is incredibly grounding.
I'm getting signals about the time, but I think we have permission for one last question. 2 last questions?
Okay. So thank you. Can you hear me?
Lola said yes. Sorry. Thank you.
All right. I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for reminding us of abundance. I think, Sihle, you said it, one of the last things you said is that so many of us work or think from a place of loss in the sense of absence. We don't have time. We don't have the space. We're too busy doing our lives, running on with our lives to look around and think that we are abundant. And I think this project, this mother and daughter project, has actually shown us the abundance that we have in our own lives, all of us, with our own parents, with the histories and the stories, that we don't sit with our own parents and listen to them as people. I was so struck by what you said about not thinking about your parent as mom or dad, but as a whole human being. So first of all, deep, deep gratitude for reminding us, I think, all of us in this room of that. And secondly, I'm so kaSxhosa, like writing in Sesotho or Xhosa or in our languages, and capturing that on paper as well is so amazing. Translation also travels, but the fact that you also paid such attention to that is so precious. And I wanted to ask about then what the translation process looked like. There's actually a question in there. Like what is the translation process looking like and feeling like? And how did you manage it?
We'll take the last question at the same time as well, if that's okay with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Every time I watch this film, I want the world to see it. I felt that way when I met you in South Africa. And it's not just about the film, it's about experiencing the both of you alongside the film. So my question is, if you could fill a cinema with the audience of your dreams, who would it be?
That's such a nice question.
The audience of your dreams, who would be there? Like if you could just bring everybody that you want there, who would you bring? For me, I'm a destiny coach. When I see a young person, in fact, I see my child, anyone, I see a destiny. So for me, once I see the young ones, I just want to make sure that they know what they carry, the greatness that is in them. So the first ones will be young persons. The second one will be parents. Just to say to the parents, let's give our chance. They are very brilliant. Let's listen to them. Sometimes we have that power of a mother, daughter. You always want to say, I am the mother. But I think we have to move now to another space where we listen to them as well as responsible people and know that we can learn something from them. So it's parents, it's young persons, they ought to be there. Yeah, I would say, and also I think we need to have our decision makers. You know, like for instance, people that take decisions about this film, because for me, it should be taken to schools. Schools is where the young ones are, you know, because they are being equipped with this book, for instance. I know that I'm talking to them because I wrote most of the poems when I was hands-on, rolling my sleeves to the classrooms. So I was able to pick up the things that derail them from studying and equip themselves to be the best they can be in life. So that's why I'm saying even our decision makers, people that can fund and sponsor these things to take them to the beneficiaries, the young people. Yeah, for me, that's it. I don't know about you, Sihle.
My vision, I'm hoping that 2025 just opens like such a world tour of really being able to open much deeper conversations around like just family, you know, because I think all wounds, all healing, all beauty comes from when as families first we have strong foundations. And so I can imagine this massive room where mom, daughter, aunt, uncle, dad, brother are literally standing, holding hands, you know, and almost breathing life back into each other. And I think that I imagine that, and I really hope for that. I think a lot of Oprah talking about her mother and needing so much more from her mom and always saying, I needed a gallon of love and she only had a pint size. And it just makes me think about all the ways in which, just almost understanding the soul of each other and becoming fluent into each other's stories. And I kind of think about that as an entryway of being able to multiply the scale of it and her own life and work in that sense. That's my hope. I hope that we can share the story with a lot more people and really invite people into each other's souls and families. Yeah. The translation, my God.
Can I add something? So the last thing that this book was, that gave birth to this book was pain. So women that are going through their pains, disappointments of life, you know, losses, that's another group of people that I can work with, because I don't know where did I get the courage and how did I get it, but I know that my faith has made my adversities, you know, has changed my adversities to to where I am. I never thought I would ever come to Nigeria, but I'm sitting here because of my pain. Thank you.
Oh. Okay, one last thing about this audience. I think it will be done just now. You know, in Joburg we had a launch a year ago when we first launched it, and we had an opera singer and Nombeko, who's the backdrop to the sound of it. And it was so brilliant, and I can think of something like Sion, which was Zakes Mda's book that was adapted by Gregory Makoma. Beautiful, brilliant, turned into dance, and I think about all the multiple forms in which this work can re-exist in as a way of inviting that healing. But also, one of the things that I've been applying for is funding to turn it into a film, and I'm hoping that really will be the next stage of how we're able to scale the reach of it as well. The translation, the day we finished translating the work, Mom sent me a message saying, "I've just finished with my editor. My new book is off for development." And I literally said to her, "That is on you. Like, I am not." Because the translation, you know, you translate for so long, you feel literally physically strained and hungry, because it's one thing translating language, it's another thing trying to translate poetry, because poetry is so formless and it's about breath and the things that you can't utter. And thinking about how you capture that from its initial language into that in English. But I think I enjoyed it the most when we were translating her nature poems, because I'm just like, when did you become Mary Oliver? I mean, well, maybe always. Sorry, the other way around. But it's just, I think there were moments where I really enjoyed, and especially nature. And then there were times when you're writing about something that's practically and beautifully written in Xhosa, but is so hard to translate into English and make it sound like poetry instead of prose, you know? So that's the translation process. I think I still get hungry when I think about it. I'm just like, oh my God.
Thank you. Thank you so much to both of you. Thank you to all of you for joining us this evening. Give it up for